What's going on, everyone? My name is Johnny Bannon, and I'm your CCNA instructor for this CCNA video course. So in this lecture, or in this video, we're going to go over our CDP lab and our LLDP lab. I always forget LLDP. It's a Cisco course, right? So sometimes we forget about our vendor-neutral protocols. So if you're one of our paid students, all of these labs in our CCNA video course will be available to you. If you're one of our free viewers on like YouTube, or maybe you paid for like our $10 course on Udemy, these labs won't be available to you on like a central repository or Google Drive. However, they are very easy to recreate. And if you watch our Even G how-to videos, you'll see that Even G is just so easy once you get used to it, and a great way to train at home. So with that being said, let's go ahead and open up our CDP and LLDP lab. So we come into our lab environment and we see our instructions are right here. But if you've also been following along, you know that we have a GitLab page here that also has instructions. So that link is in the description below on YouTube. And for our paid viewers, you should have a direct link in that course page that you're on. So I'm going to open up these instructions, and I'm going to go ahead and drag these over to the right. And I'm going to, on the monitor you can't see, read the instructions from there while I do my configuration back in my environment. So the first thing we're going to do is turn on all devices. So start all nodes. And then we're going to give it just a second to power up here. And then step 2, we're going to paste the baseline from GitLab. So again, I'm going to bring our GitLab into view. From the root of our repository here, we have baselines that you can paste in to make it a little easier just to navigate and get some housekeeping commands on there. For our paid viewers, again, that startup or that baseline config should be a part of the startup, so you won't need to worry about that. And now let's move on to step 3. Ensure CDP and LLDP are turned on, and if not, turn on both protocols globally for all network devices. So let's go ahead and console in, and I'm using Secure CRT as my native console, which we should all be using. I know you have to pay for it, but it is just amazing. If you're already a network administrator, make sure that your company is paying for Secure CRT. It makes life so much easier. So we're going to log into all these devices here. Control tab, go to my next tab over. And then I'm going to come down here, and actually let me just set this up for us, right? So we get a nice, good view. And then I'm going to come here and actually have send commands to all sessions. And what I'm going to do is type in show CDP. And we're going to see if CDP is on all of our switches. So switch 3 it is, R1 it is, and switch 2 it is. Now let's see if LLDP is. And look at that. LLDP is not enabled. So our step 2, and again, I'm reading the instructions on the second monitor you can't see. Step 3, ensure CDP and LLDP are turned on. LLDP is not. So let's just go ahead and go through the motions and turn LLDP on. One simple command to turn on LLDP globally, and that is LLDP run from global config mode. You can see that was done on both switches and routers. And now what if, just for example, let's say CDP wasn't turned on? How would we do it? CDP run as well, globally. And I'm going to keep emphasizing that the CDP run command is done from global configuration mode, not under any interfaces. Now, let's say we want to turn off these protocols. I could just up arrow back to LLDP run, Control A to the front, and then type in no, and that turns off the protocol globally. Pretty simple, right? Now on to step 4. For switch 2, ensure no multi-vendor for switch 3, ensure no multi-vendor discovery protocol is turned on for ports connected to endpoints or clients. So let's take a look at that. So we don't want any multi-vendor protocol, discovery protocol, to be turned on any of the ports facing our clients. So that means for Ethernet 00 and 02, we're going to turn off LLDP because that is a multi-vendor discovery protocol. As in, well, LLDP is non-proprietary, unlike CDP. So to turn this off, we're going to enter our interfaces with a range command. And the command is going to be two commands. It's going to be no LLDP transmit and no LLDP receive. So now our endpoints or our clients are not going to receive any LLDP, and our switch ports will not transmit any LLDP messages. Awesome. Now let's move on to step 5. On switch 2 and 3, ensure the LLDP port description is on. So what we're doing here is one of those optional TLVs that I described in our lecture, and we're going to ensure that those TLVs get sent globally through LLDP. So for switch 2 and switch 3, we're going to be in global config. We're going to type in LLDP TLV select and then port description. And that's going to ensure that the port description is sent with our LLDP message in that optional TLV field. Now moving on, from switch 2 to R1, ensure the switch does not advertise its management IP address. So now we're going to do some filtering. So from switch 2, we don't want to send our management IP address. And if we just do some basic show commands, we can see that we do have an SVI created here as a management address. We don't want R1 to know about it. So if we go to R1 right now and type in show LLDP neighbor detail, why is LLDP not showing up? Let's see here. We go into interface 00. Let's just turn this on globally. Okay, still can't see R1. Let's go ahead into R1's interface and just turn it on at the interface level and make sure that LLDP is still enabled. Just run that command again. Give it a few seconds. And I think I actually know the issue, guys. So on a router, ports are not automatically up. I've been so busy and entrenched in doing our layer 2 that I forgot that, well, routers, I got to turn this interface on. So let's go ahead and do that. A no shut command. And now maybe we'll be able to see some LLDP come across our link. So back to step 6, from switch 1 to R1, ensure the switch does not advertise its management IP address. So if we look here, show LLDP neighbors Ethernet 00 details. Still not getting anything. Let's just do detail. Okay, that worked. We can see that the management IP address is being advertised from switch 2. So we don't want that to happen. Let me just see if I can figure out why this detail command wasn't working. It looks like LLDP is reading it as ET. So for some reason, it's making it do ET instead of ETH. Don't know why, but we see show LLDP neighbor Ethernet 00 detail commands gives that same result. So now let's actually do this filtering. So how we're going to filter TLVs globally is by just putting a no in front of the LLDP TLV select command. And then we should stop sending our management IP address across any LLDP enabled links. And look at that. No more management address. It's not advertised. And we can see these other TLVs that are not advertised. So great. Now we can see those TLVs in action, right? How we can filter them. Now moving on to step 7, turn off CDP for any unused ports on both switches. So what this is doing is like kind of a security measure, saying any of our unused ports, maybe we leave them on, we don't shut them down. And if we have a malicious user plug in to a wall jack, we don't want CDP to be sent across for a potential malicious threat actor to find out information about our switch. So for any unused port. So from switch 2, let's figure out which ports are not being used. We can do show interface description. or we can do interface status actually. And so on a regular switch, you're actually going to see connected and not connected for the ports that aren't being used. For this switch in an even G environment, I call this an even G-ism, where it says they're all connected to something, which we can see isn't true. So if we were remoted in and we had to do this, essentially we would type in this command, do show interface status, and we would see not connected on the rest of these ports, okay? Because we're only using Ethernet 00 and 01. So just one of those even G-isms that you'll get used to in that lab environment. But we can still accomplish our step here by doing an interface range command 2 times, and then turning off CDP on any of the unused ports. And then for switch 3, we would do the exact same thing. So this one is going to be interface range ETH03, then ETH1/0 through 3, no CDP enable. Awesome. Now our last step says verify the port description is being sent on switch 2, and the management address filtering is happening from switch 2 to R1. So we already verified that the management IP address is being filtered. Now let's verify that the port description is being sent from switch 2. So how do we do that? Well, just like this. Show LLDP neighbors ETH01 detail. And we should see the port description coming across, and yes, we do, right there. Ethernet 01. So awesome. Now the last thing before we end this lab, because again, this lab, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, really, we're kind of doing more than what the exam objectives want. Before we go, I will show you how to filter CDP using a CDP filter list. And then we're also going to do a capture right here. And I'm going to change the timers as well, okay? And we're going to do all this configuration from switch 2. So let's go ahead and do that. So first thing we're going to do is change the CDP timers to 1 second. Okay, 5 seconds. I guess it can't go below 5 seconds. Then we're going to change the CDP hold time to 10 seconds. And then we're also going to do that CDP list. So TLV list, we give it a name. We'll call it lab. And then we pick which TLVs we want to filter. So let's say I don't want them to know the platform or the port ID or the management address. Well, what we're going to do is just one by one input what we want to filter. Okay. So this is just giving us not an error, just a message saying on sub interfaces, unpredictable results. We're not using sub interfaces here. So right now we're going to manage the management IP address, the platform, and the port ID coming across as CDP TLV. So if we come to switch 3 and we do show CDP neighbors ETH01 details, we see that all that information. And now let's go apply this list on Ethernet 01, filter TLV list, and we called it lab, I believe. And let's redo that command, the detail command, and see, and we are filtering correctly. Now let's go to our Wireshark capture, and we've been doing this capture. So I'm gonna go pause. We come up to the front here to our first CDP message. We can see all that information. We have that management address being sent. We can see all the TLVs in the CDP. Now let's go to our last CDP, which should have been doing some filtering. And we see that the management address isn't there. So pretty cool. I always love putting Wireshark on our link so we can actually see it actually happening. So you don't just have to take my word for it, right? We can actually see on the wire our configuration being applied to that data coming across. All right, awesome. I want to thank you all for viewing this video, and stay tuned for our next video going over spanning tree protocol. It should be a fun one. One of the toughest protocols there is to teach and I think to learn.